You can never know what your capacity is really until you're tested. And oftentimes when you're tested, you just fail. And there is a point beyond which you can't go. I mean, you may think that your evolution is infinite, but it's not. All of us have a capacity. And once you find what it is, there is only so high you can go. There's a story in the Quran, and without making it too abstract, most of us in this class who have been single and wanted to be in a relationship and imagined ourselves that we have the capacity to be in one, eventually you find a companion and that relationship tests you only to realize you're not really ready for it. And then after a while, things either just fizzle out or you find a way out of the relationship. So the first thing you need to understand, no one knows. No one knows what anybody's capacities are. You get tested, you know, it's kind of like when you want to move into a cult. A good cult, what usually happens, I mean, a really, really good cult, they test you beforehand, and should the committee members come to decide that you just are not fit just yet, they reject you. It's something that happened about 800 years ago in the context of Rumi and Shams. Rumi is this young kid who is religious. Shams is this old guy. It's kind of like Jesus Christ and John the Baptist, for example. You know, Jesus runs into John when John is like a 20-year-old kid. But Jesus comes to realize this, yes, you know, John knows a few things about this and that, but he's not really ready to listen. He's not ready to hear. He's not ready to change. So he says, despite the fact that he may have ears that can hear, what he hears, he won't pay too much attention to. So he waits and waits and waits until John reaches to be like 38. So good teachers, they can see what your capacity is, but also realize that you're not ready to embody that capacity just yet, so they walk away. Shams, who was a 60-some-year-old man, runs into Rumi, or 50-some, runs into Rumi when Rumi is only 20. And by the time Rumi is this 20-year-old kid, he knows the ins and outs of the Islamic tradition. He has 400 or 500 disciples. But Shams looks at this young kid and says, yes, you know, he has fame, yes, he has knowledge, not wisdom, but knowledge, but he's not ready to hear. He walks away and waits for about 18 years. He runs into him again at the age of 38, and now he's ready. And the problem is that the tests that are going to be, or the challenges that are going to be offered to you are going to be enormous. So the story comes from Quran. It's about Moses and his lust and greed for more wisdom, for more experience. So one day he goes to God and says, I think I can understand more. I think I can receive more wisdom. And God keeps telling him, Moses, you can't. You have reached your max. You know, lust for things for which you have the capacity. Be greedy for things you have the capacity to receive and use or utilize. Don't be an infant. Moses says, no, I can. I really, really can. You know, it's like your 2-year-old telling you, let go of the bike. I think I can do this on my own. And you keep telling your kid, you're not ready. But the absence of experience, arrogance, pride, which comes with when you're a kid that's just in your software, and you let the bike go, and the kid falls and breaks his neck, and looks at you and says, well, why did you let the bike go? So one of the nice things about this story is the suggestion that all of us in this class assume that we have the capacity for things we're not ready for, but because of lust, because of greed, because of pride, and very many other components, we have no choice but to just follow our instincts and move towards the thing that we desire. God comes to understand that when someone keeps asking you again and again and again, there is something that's lacking in their observation, and you can't sit them down and have a conversation with them. So what you do is you challenge them. You put them into action. And God says, okay, I'm going to send you a fellow. He's going to walk into your life and he's going to make 3 requests. Just follow his advice. And should you be able to, I will give you things, experiences that you have longed for many, many years. So this man enters Moses' life. His name is Khezr. He usually wears green. He runs into Moses and says, I am the guy sent to you by God. And should you be successful in doing what I ask, then God will give you what you're requesting. insight, wisdom, this and that. And Moses, of course, like all of us in this class, say, yes, of course I can. It's not a problem. So it's a hot day, they're walking the streets, and this man looks at Moses and says, go knock on that door and ask for a cup of water. And he knocks on the door, two tiny kids open the door, and Moses looks at them and says, can I ask for a cup of water? And the kids say, no, get lost. And this man named Khezr looks at Moses and says, you know, their fence in the backyard is broken, let's go and fix it. Moses says, are you kidding? I asked for a glass of water, they refused to give me some water. You want me to now spend all of my time, energy, money fixing this broken fence? I'm not gonna do it. Khezr goes to the backyard and fixes the fence on his own. Next, they go to a different town. There is this 2-year-old kid running around wildly, and this old man looks at Moses and says, here's my sword, go and chop off his head. And Moses says, are you kidding? This kid is innocent. I can't just kill him. And Khezr just picks up the sword and chops his head off. The third is they're on this boat, and there are all these old men and women and children on the boat, and this old man looks at Moses and says, drill a hole in this boat, let it sink. And Moses looks at this man and says, I'm not going to do it. Old men, old women, these children will all drown and die. And this guy does it himself. The first challenge, which was building this fence, had to do with these kids. When their parents died, they had left them a bucket filled with money under the dirt. And if you build this fence, their funds will be protected. When they get older, they would bring out that bucket and use the money for themselves, their wives, their kids, and their community. But Moses failed. Second, the kid would grow up to be a Hitler or a Trump or a Genghis Khan. What this old man had seen about this kid is that this kid would become the future tyrant. And to save the community, it's best to just get rid of the kid. The third challenge was to drill a hole and make the boat sink. Because once the boat would get to the shore, there would be a bunch of criminals on this island, and they would behead or kill all the occupants of the boat. And so Moses failed all three challenges. And the point of the story is, it's very difficult to know our own limitations. You know, I had always believed myself to have a lot of patience. And then I had children. And then I realized every 5 minutes I'm screaming. And then it dawned on me that maybe I'm just not fit to be a parent, because you just need a lot of stamina. It's something that women are really good at, but men really are awful at. Most men, at least. And so one of the nice things about the story is there is nothing wrong with greed. There is nothing wrong with lust. There is nothing wrong with desiring all sorts of things, as long as you don't go beyond your capacity. And you will never know that until you're challenged over and over and over again, until something about you gets cemented. You really begin to understand what you're good at, what you're not so good at, what you have the capacity for and don't. And that's only possible when you're challenged repeatedly. All of us have a certain psychological narrative about ourselves, and mostly they're positive. Unless you've been to therapy for many, many years and your therapist have made you realize that just as a human being, you just suck. And you need many, many years of healing before you can move on. But for the most part, if you think very highly of yourself, and when you're challenged, and when you realize that you can't reach to the destination you want to go, that's a loss of a certain self-image that you have. And you're going to fight that self-image that has been brought forth by the challenge itself, and you will reject it. You know, it's like anyone who goes to the doctor for a routine physical checkup and gets diagnosed with cancer, and they say, no, I need a second opinion, or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth. In brief then, the answer to capacity, you will never, ever, ever know. And you better hope that you're never challenged. Because then, very much like the movie The Matrix, you can always be taking the blue pill. You can always think great things about yourself.